Hello, it's Jack Tutor here of Attention Magazine. Welcome to Crucial Listening, the podcast where I speak with musicians and sound artists about 3 albums that are important to them. My guest this time is Lucie Vítková, a composer, improviser, performer based in New York from the Czech Republic. So Lucie's new solo album, Cave Acoustics, came out over the summer, collaboratively through the labels Mappa and Skupina. Features a set of 4 pieces recorded in some really striking locations, including an abandoned Gothic church in Slovakia and various cave systems in the Czech Republic. The recordings also feature some of them Lucie's sisters collaborating musically for the first time. And you end up listening to this album and having so many different thoughts given the context around the interactions between the performers and the spaces in which they reside, all those lovely acoustic reflections that uniquely identify those spaces, the interaction between the participants, both in that moment but also due to their familial connection, that augments the experience of listening to these pieces unfold. There's so much background that I loved reading about, and also to hear Lucie talk about it in this conversation, this record and the various spaces and how these pieces came together was really wonderful. It's a record that's brimming with questions and curiosities, and I love it. Please do check it out. The conversation as well was wonderful. Obviously, having had such a potent experience with the record itself, I was really looking forward to speaking to Lucie, and they were great. I hope you enjoy this one. Thank you so much for your support as always. You can head over to Ko-fi if you want to donate to Crucial Listening to help keep it going. ko-fi.com/crucial listening. Any amount you please, one-off or monthly. Thank you for listening as always. This is Lucie Vítková on Crucial Listening. Hello, Lucie. Welcome to Crucial Listening.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. Thank you for coming on the podcast. So you're here to talk about 3 important albums. Before we talk about those, I want to talk about your recent solo album, Cave Acoustics, which came out on Mappa and Skupina. So the performances on the record took place in some really curious spaces. So to begin with, I wanted to ask you about the locations featured on Cave Acoustics. So can you tell me a bit about these locations, and then also what made you choose them for this record or for recording?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been thinking, because these caves are very close to the place I'm from, and I've lived like a big chunk of my life with especially like my family life. I'm from a small town in Czech Republic. It's kind of in the Moravia region. It's from the city called Blansko, and in Blansko we have lots of industry, especially water turbine industry, building water turbines for different dams, and we export to the world. But also around this kind of industrial city is also a complex of forests and protected area, which is nearby, like a protected natural area, which contains these caves and abyss, Matsocha, which is one of the deepest abysses in the Middle Europe.
Wow.
And so it's kind of like a very unique place. There were lots of prehistoric findings, and I've been in touch with that place since childhood because we go there with school, like as a school trip, or we go there just to hang out and or see it like once a year or here or there. So I kind of know. I take it for granted. It's around, and it's kind of embedded in my growing up in some way. And this album gave acoustics. I was thinking, because lots of my work is tries to give access to people who don't necessarily play music or do experimental music, or I always try to bring musicians and non-musicians together, musical amateurs. I just would like to people do creative stuff if they can, and I found lots of benefit for myself and for my life in that. So I always think it would be great if everybody can give it a try. So lots of my compositions are made with these thoughts, and I was thinking at the time it would be nice to bring this piece and try to perform it with my sisters who don't play music professionally, or maybe just very sporadically. Maybe it's rare for them to sing sometime. We used to sing around the fire, in our family gatherings. There was kind of like a birthday celebrations. We make a fire and sing, but it's not been happening for long years after my grandfather's death. So I kind of missed that common doing together something in this way. But I feel like also this opportunity was really unique, and I wasn't really sure if they will do it. And I was like, I will risk it. I must risk it and ask. So I come from. I already lived in New York at the time, and I come home and visit, and I'm like, I wrote a piece. We are gonna perform it, and we are gonna record it, and it will be an album. And and my sisters, okay, where do you want to do it? And they were kind of like, I don't know if they were necessarily enthusiastic about it, but It was like, oh yeah, I want them to do something. So we will do it. Okay, so I took that chance. So I was pouring enthusiasm, but they were just like, okay, we will do it for you or something. But I really hope it brings something for them as well. And the whole process was so beautiful in some way, just revisiting these spaces, we were practicing at the football field behind the elementary school. Me and Clara, my sister, used to attend, I think Dominika as well, actually. Yeah, both of them. And
wow.
So we are at this football field, and there is this circle which is in the middle for sports, and it's really perfect for practicing our piece. And I was really impressed by my sisters, or the connection. It's special and specific. The family connections, they have different complexity than the relationships with your other people, with your friends, and there's lots share history in some way. And I was really surprised because I explained the piece and they just did it.
Oh wow!
They just did it, and I was like, wow, okay, in New York maybe I have to rehearse 2 days with other people, with artists, and these two of my sisters they just did it right away because we are doers, and that's where I realized, like, me and in my family, we are doers. We do things, and you tell us, and we just do it. Okay, there is
so
something
good.
about that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that was the story, and just to finish with, like, we then practiced it, we recorded. I even managed to we performed it in front of an audience in the local gallery. There is like a visual arts gallery in Blansko, and we were able to actually perform it right the next weekend in front of the audience, in front of parts of our family, and like, it was striking for me they would do it, because I performed experimental arts for so long, but it was their first performance, and I feel like maybe they just trust me so well. They just went with it, and they did it, and it was kind of like an experience we had together. And a couple of days later, I just organized this trip. We take car and go to the caves and spend the whole day in caves recording these pieces. It's a really beautiful time.
That is stunning. I mean, one of the locations you recorded was Joachimka.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm right, I believe I read a bit of text that indicated it was a bit of an adventure getting in there.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, this cave is actually not that touristic, and it's just in the forest without any entrance fee, or it's not adjusted for visitors. It's just there. Kind of old school cave, which is not used for visitors, like official visits, and for profit. And I was really surprised to find it, but also how do we get in there, because there is like a small river around it, and there are a couple of stones also in the river, so we decided to like carry all the equipment, that we will stand on the stones, and we will just like passing the equipment through the people, through the human chain, and get it on the other shore, on the other side. And there was like really steep hill up to the cave, but we arrived, and I feel like it's really like connect us, this like common experience. And beyond the fresh air, we went inside and just looked where would be good to record, looking for the acoustics, for the cave acoustics.
One other question I wanted to ask in this intro is about Inside the Ritual. I mentioned before we started recording that I had this on last night, and I think the thing that became particularly pronounced for me is what I perceive as your movement around the frame. I don't know why, but previously I'd not responded so much to the fact that you can hear your contributions moving quite a lot, and in fact, build in the credits of this album is the fact that you contribute movement. So obviously this is an aspect of that piece which I was going to say eludes listening, but clearly I could hear it. But I wondered if you could tell me more about the presence of movement in that final piece.
I've been working with movement. Actually, the trio with cans, the trash trio, is also based on movement. So I feel like it's a bit similar principle, because for years I tried to sonify my movement inside of space. I use different sonic costumes. I collect materials which I try to reuse to enhance my body, but also motivate my body to move in the space. So it's kind of a loop of movement and sound which really feeds into each other. And in that specific piece, Inside of the Ritual, I really felt like you can hear not necessarily the movement but the touch, because there was like a long grass which was like, I don't know, until my waist or above my waist, and I was going through it, and when the grass is touching my body, it would touch the costume which I had on me as well, the cans.
Wow.
So that kind of, it more feels like, I don't know if I was moving or the grass was touching me. It's kind of like a both.
Yeah.
But both is sonified by the settled sounds of the cans you can hear in the recordings, and also probably the distance from the microphone, so you kind of can guess my location and where I am in the space. But I felt like that was kind of like a good interaction with the grass.
Well, I wanted to give listeners a bit of an insight into this record, and also selfishly satiate a few questions that I had just listening to the album. But there's so much, as I've told you, there's so much for listeners to like dig into here, and it's a wonderful record. People, please just go and listen to it. I'll include links in the show notes, and implore people to dive in. It's wonderful. Lucia, before we get to your important records specifically, I like to ask at this point about how you came to pick your 3 important records. So was there a way that you understood the word important in order to come up with the list of 3 records that you did?
For me, that question was a bit intimidating at the beginning, because I have like a huge tradition of going for concerts and listening live music. So I feel like that's kind of my main practice. So I was thinking, actually, like, how do I listen music at home? So I really need to go deep, and what's important, maybe in some way, like changing my direction, or the importance of the recording, maybe some transformative listening, like it's changed the way I think or live, or I think about sound or life in some way. So I feel like that's kind of the importance of that, and I feel like these 3 has had a lot of influence on me and on my work. I am sure about that. Yeah. So I wanted to just. It's nice to pull them out and give them some time and talk about them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nice. So I don't know if you had an order in mind, or is there a record you'd like to talk about first?
We can do the order I wrote. So start with Yanis Xenakis and La Legend there. Yeah. Great.
And maybe give me a little introduction as to why this record is important to you.
Well, the records as they are ordered in kind of a chronological way when I kind of discovered them or bumped into them. So Yanis Xenakis, this recording come to me in my early 20s. So it's been really, really long time. I have listened to this recording, and I revisited it just to see how do I listen to it in these days. And I feel like it was a time I was at the conservatory, studying classical music, and I was always drawn to different sonorities, and more to the contemporary music. I was drawn to be a composer, and I studied classical accordion at the time, and I've always composed, and this kind of sonority was radical during the time I discovered Yanis Xenakis' music. So I listened to his instrumental pieces, but after I found this record, and it was still when you used to borrow a CD from a library.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have like personal computer. I didn't have notebook or anything. I was listening to it on CD player. So I remember that moment when I put it into my CD player, and I listened to it, and it's a long piece. It's like 47 minutes, and I cannot stop to listen to it, and I keep listening to it over and over and over, and it's just, I feel like there was the radicality also, like how long piece should be, how long can you pay attention to something, how like you get totally immersed, and the principle, the form is so clear and simple in some way, because it starts kind of like a low density and ends low density, and in the middle getting more and more complex, and all these events are emerging out of this texture, which really did resonated with my brain, or with my mind, or with my ears at the time, and it really brought me really to a new direction. Like I started to go deeper into contemporary music and modern sound and improvisation later, and I even wrote my bachelor thesis, I think, about Yanis Xenakis, so yeah, about his rhythm. So it was kind of like a kind of important moment, breaking point.
Wow. So you went from, as you say, in your 20s, discovering this piece and playing it in that CD player over and over again. You mentioned as well you kind of revisited the piece and listen again to kind of figure out how you listen to it now. I'm wondering, what did you find? Like, does the piece hit you differently now compared to how it did then?
It feels like I know it, It feels like I know it, but it's keep also like still surprising me. I know this music always stay radical in some way for me, but maybe when I listened in my early 20s, I was 21 or something, I thought maybe it's more raw.
Right. Yeah.
But now, when I listen to it, it seems so smooth and very clear to me. Before that, I didn't. It was something I've never heard before, and now it feels so clear to me. But it still keeps the surprising moments of like, do I hear this? What is this sound coming out of the texture, out of the density? And you are not sure what you hear. And it brings you different imagination, or like, are these, I remember, like when I listened to it when I was young, I was just like, are these mosquitoes, or are these, like the timbre is changing so rapidly that it changes the images in your head, some association, what could it be? But after it gets very distant, because it's also electronic sound, so after it becomes just machine-like in some way, or building side. I feel like it was a whole introduction into listening environmental sounds, because as I told you, I am really into live concerts and listening music live. Then when I am at home, I feel like I like to listen the environment I'm in. So often I don't play music at home from a CD. I really have to have like a listening night, kind of designated time to it. But as I sit here now, I just hear like there is some hum from outside. I don't know if like somebody started like a building site noise. So I just listen for those movements and for those melodies or noises, and see how they form around the place I live. So kind of paying attention to that. So I feel like Yanis Xenakis would be like a good introduction into this kind of listening as well.
Yeah, I think you said some stuff that's really resonated with the way that I've listened to this piece. In fact, I should say at this point it's the second time it's been picked on the podcast. It's also Yorgis Sakalariou picked this as well, and was really affected by it. But listening to it again has been very interesting. I mean, the sounds that you mention as kind of transforming or sounding like they're changing as you're listening to them. The one for me in particular is the one that sounds like a voice screaming into a distorted microphone. That happens quite a lot. And there's points where it sounds really anguished and quite chilling. Like, I think there's, I can't help but respond to what I perceive as the emotional tenor of that tone. And then there's times where actually it just maybe sounds like, I don't know, someone rubbing against a balloon or something inane. It's really, it's got this chameleon-like quality to it, this record, which I wasn't expecting to find so striking, given that it was, late 70s, but
yeah, and exactly, like when I then start to research more on his music and getting to know about his inspiration by revolting crowds, like strikes, and his experience in the political protests, and like he was injured badly in those protests. So
wow.
It starts to make sense to you if you hear a scream, or if it becomes so, like if you imagine like revolting protest crowd or march, it starts to have also this new dimension, which is like people together trying to make a change.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's connects also with the changing the system of Christian Wolff later.
Of course, yeah.
So it always music. I choose also music which maybe has this subcontext of change, changing things, transforming, and I feel like I'm drawn to it in some way as well. So I'm meeting these composers, and I feel like there is a common thread in these three important albums I chose.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, I think this will become a pertinent question when we discuss that Christian Wolff one, so I'll park a few of my questions until then as well. But with Xenakis, I saw a post on Instagram actually the other day where you were playing a drum kit, and you mentioned the fact that you were feeling the inspiration of Xenakis's percussion pieces. Yeah, I mean, firstly, tell me a bit about that. Why did those pieces come to mind?
Yeah, no, I was, you asked me to find these albums, and I revisited Yannis Xenakis, and it's back in my life, so thank you for that.
Oh, wow.
And I like your influence, and I've been playing drums for a while now and really enjoying that. But I feel like at that studio, the toms had such a percussion like quality, not necessarily like I didn't feel very rock drummer at that studio. I felt more like I'm a percussion player.
Right.
And it really reminded me, because I used to listen a lot this solo piece Sappha by Yannis Xenakis, and it really came back, and I just went with it, and it was interesting because another friend, Melinda Fylor, wrote me on Instagram, and she's like, I totally hear the Sappha piece, and
cool.
I'm just like, exactly, that's what I'm talking about, So wow. Something is working here. So yeah,
that's
it's
great.
Really nice.
So are there areas of Xenakis's work then that you find particularly resonant with you?
Lots of his techniques. I really like how he thinks about music, how he brings his everyday life, or kind of the activism, or let's say, the protest, like, is a big part of his life, and how he brings it into his pieces, and also some of the composition technique which comes from complexities. I was really excited to study, like, the arborescences kind of branching. He has this, like, different graphs and kind of like graphic expressions, of how he achieved all these pitches, which he transcribed into classical notation then, or kind of partly graphic, because I feel like also his scoring was quite groundbreaking in some way. Metastasis, like, it wasn't necessarily conventional score. I feel like he had to modify the classical notation expression to make his sound. He also connect his occupation of being, like, being involved with architecture or being engineer. He thinks along those lines, bringing that thinking inside of composition. And I feel like that's very along my way, how I'm thinking, how I'm as a composer. I try to bring everyday life in. I try to inspire people who don't do music originally to just come from their occupation and maybe bring that into music. I feel like that influence is still there when I am teaching or just talking about music with people. I'm just like, yeah, you can try, like, you can you can try. Yeah, you studied something else, but it still gave you foundation for some kind of thinking, which you can maybe then bring into sound. So I feel like he connects in his work lots of things I am really interested in, and I live myself inside of my work, and really like to connect lots of different things. Yeah.
Lucia, let's go to your second important album. So which one is next in the list? I've got them in a different order. I scrambled them on my sheet. So
Yeah. I wrote Pauline Oliver's Tuning Meditation.
Great.
I necessarily don't know if there is, like, a album, but I wanted to sneak in some more, like, I feel like Pauline's music you cannot capture with album necessarily.
Yes, that's
it's
true.
just like, because I saw this piece written on as a score. I performed it many times, and I also, bring it at the workshops and bring people in, but I'm not sure if it's actually recorded somewhere. Maybe I'm breaking the rules now.
They're there to be broken. No, do you know what? I did find a recorded version of this.
Yes.
I mean, that, even if I hadn't, I wouldn't have given you a yellow card. This is totally acceptable to bring this one in.
Nice.
Maybe give me, you've given me a little introduction to the fact that it, you've done it yourself, you bring it into workshops, but yeah, give me an introduction as to why this one's important to you.
Yeah, it's important because I didn't know it's that important to me. But I feel like it really also the influence is so settled that you don't even know it really went through so much of your work or the way you are thinking. So it's I really have to give credit to Pauline Oliveros, because I feel maybe she's so much influence on how people listen in contemporary music or experimental music. It seems like her work is kind of settled, you know, like she's out there, of course, but also I feel like okay, we played this piece. I often don't see she's given so much credit on how really she influenced the scene with her technique, with her deep listening, with her thinking, and her compositions are really interesting. The way she want to change also how people listen, and also her activist work in some way, and you know, trying to change the scene and to build a stage, or maybe even dismantle the stage. But you know, like when she died, I felt it a lot, like there is no roof over over, and it's you know, like it's like when she's been like kind of a solid persona or energy on the scene for me to relate to. And you know, like when I was young, also early 20s, like people always, because she's queer, a female composer, and plays accordion, so I had her on my plate like every single time I talk to somebody, like, do you know Pauline Oliveros? You know, because I'm also like, you know, a queer accordionist composer, you know, so it's always like, yeah, why do I have to relate to Pauline Oliveros all the time? And it was a struggle at the beginning. I couldn't understand why I'm always, you know, put together, and it was kind of artificial for me because we haven't met. I only know her from distance, and it was like people don't know anything about you, you know. It's just like they just like grab this kind of some identity thing and supposed to be in one bag.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So yeah, but it happened that we met, and it was really crucial for me, and. We chatted and a couple of times, and the main kind of amazing thing was that I've had her instrument for many years now. Like I have one of her accordions, and I played here in New York, and I just, you know, appreciate, you know, like I feel like she really like took care of me somehow, you know, because I came to New York. I needed accordion which is suitable for playing contemporary music, so I need like a bigger one, and it's hard to travel. I have 5 accordions in Czech Republic, but it's so hard to transport, so I only come with small one. And she really has also multiple, as I feel like all accordionists have so many accordions. Yeah, just love different sizes, and it's kind of necessary, you know. But yeah, she just lent me one of her Titano accordions, and I've been able to play it here in New York and be part of the contemporary music scene. And I think of her a lot, you know. She's been, yeah, just like she used to play this instrument, and now this instrument is in my room. Wow. I feel that's a precious thing in some way. Yeah, I'm in touch with her partner, with Ion, who is also an amazing artist. So I'm staying in the circle. This is kind of, I feel like that contributed to some new thinking for me and new listening. In a way, listening is important.
Yeah, when you say new thinking, can you put your finger on? I mean, I think you've explained a lot just in talking about your introduction to Pauline's work and your thoughts there. But when you refer to new listening, can you put your finger on what that is? Like, what changed?
Yeah, I bet it's different for everybody. But through this tuning meditation, I feel like it might be, like maybe I sing it first time in like 2013 or 2011, let's say. And just to hear people's voices, because anybody can sing it, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can participate. And that's the huge thing. I also took the accessibility of her music. And Christian Wolff has it to some extent, but I feel like Pauline Oliveros really is focused on that a lot. And new listening is just like you get to listen untrained voices. You get to listen, different timbres, melodies which appear out of group of people, especially in this piece, and it will bring like new things in everybody, because people are trying, but there is also the acceptance in a way, like that nothing is wrong, not like people just do think together. And I feel that's so important, because stage sometimes divide us on professionals and amateurs, and people who has access to the stage and people who don't, and people who gets attention, so all like this. I listen for these kind of relationships, and that I feel this piece is so simple and so full of this teaching in some way.
You mentioned bringing it into workshops, because I think one thing I find interesting is getting people to start with this tuning meditation. I think I'm someone who, in this kind of environment would feel reticent to be the one to start singing a note. I haven't done this. I think I did this meditation once, but it was during COVID, so it was like coordinated over Zoom, so it wasn't it was a very, very different experience to the vast majority of cases of this happening. But being the first one to sing a note, I can imagine there's a lot of trepidation for people. What's your experience like of when people start this meditation? Like, do you find that people take a while to get going? Are there ways that you kind of lower that barrier to make people comfortable to start? Or what is it like getting people to commence?
Yeah, I feel like it's not like, maybe I don't know if that's like that for everybody, but there is something about building trust in the group, that everything is okay, that we can do it. So I feel maybe some voices are shy at the beginning or very soft, but you realize that it's also fine, you know.
Yeah.
And some people maybe, you're supposed to just follow your breath as well at some part, and or be aware of your breath. And I feel like if you connect to your breath, you also stop to focus on the people outside for a moment. So I feel like it gives you like inner mechanism you can follow. It's not like there is nothing to catch on, like some people, I don't know what to do, I don't know which tone I should sing, but maybe the breath will guide you. I feel like that seems kind of intuitive, and it's good to include, like that rhythm, because it will guide you through the piece somehow. And after you listen to other people and maybe relate or not relate, sing the same pitch or sing different pitch than that, that's like a good instruction what to do. You have things to do which are not too complicated in the space, and you have some inner rhythm you can follow, you have some external rhythm you can follow, but at some point it starts to work, and it starts to drive people to just do it and listen for these common harmonies which are emerging between us. And I always love actually how do we end, because sometimes I don't even say, and people don't know, and suddenly there is a moment people don't realize they don't know how to end this, but it always ends. So yeah. I feel the ending is very interesting because the group finds their own conclusion, and I feel that connects people so much. Like after one of this exercise, the group is on very different level of connection, and on musicianship, in terms of musicianship, people really attune to each other, and they also have more trust and more courage because they just experienced something together which was pretty unique, and kind of like you at the end people feel like something important happened for the group.
Yeah. And is that why you mentioned bringing it into workshops that you do? Is that why you bring it in? It sounds like that, in terms of sowing, as you say, like trust and sort of facilitating collaboration, it seems like a really powerful tool. So is that why you bring it in?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, you can do different exercises, but I feel like this one is very reliable in terms of working with voice, and you can even move in the space, you can walk around. So I feel like I do lots of workshops about voice and movement, or working with your body in the space. So I feel like that's really great start for just preparing the space and people to collaborate together. Yeah.
One really nice thing in the little recording I found of a tuning meditation, Pauline introduced. So I should say the instruction, just in case people don't have the context of this, and do correct me, Lucia, if any of this is wrong, but so Pauline's instruction for the meditation is to inhale deeply, exhale on the note of your choice, listen to the sounds around you and match your next note to one of them. On your next breath, make a note no one else is making. Repeat, call it listening out loud. I listened to this one that Pauline took where she gave that instruction and then said, right, and then once you're started, I'm just going to sneak away. So I don't know whether she left the room or what, but again, it felt like this lovely thing that indicated that this was this self-generating exercise that didn't need anyone to perpetuate it, or like as you say, or to conclude it either. The trust that people between them would coordinate a communal ending is quite wonderful.
Yeah, because people can do it. I believe that, and I really love to find pieces which proves it in some way. So yeah.
We'd see we got one more important record, or piece rather. I mean, give me the name of it, and then why it's important to you.
Christian Wolf's Changing the System, and this has been recorded for sure, but not as one album, probably with more pieces on it. And I feel like that piece always attracted me by the title, but I've studied it also a lot, and Christian Wolf's music was always striking for me in some way, and I don't know if you know about this, but it became also the main theme for my doctoral dissertation.
Yes, yeah.
And there is a book out which is called Compositional Techniques of Christian Wolf and Social Aspects in Music, and which I wrote. The dissertation became a book, but I chose this album because I never know what to think about Christian Wolf's music, and that was strange for me because I kind of understood for myself all the contemporary music I was around, and after Christian Wolf comes and plays pieces, and I don't know, I don't understand it, I don't know what's behind it, and so it's not something I liked, you know.
Right.
But it was really important, and that's how I devoted 7 years to study his music, you know.
Wow.
because I found that's it, because if I choose something I like, I feel like I kind of already know it, but this was so challenging for me to actually understand the music through my listening that I really wanted to devote it some time. And of course lots of my research went around the piece Changing of the System, which I performed with multiple ensembles as well, but also heard from the album. So you know, each recording is different, right? Because this piece is partly graphic score or kind of like open notation, classical notation, parametrical notation, which excludes some parameters. So, for example, you have only chords, but you can play in a treble clef or bass clef, so this you get like twice as more chords,
right,
just by changing the keys. So you have to make decisions, and I feel like that's what's been so good, to go deep into Christian Wolf's music, to see how he leaves lots of choices on musicians while making very rigorous or systems they are in, but they still keep the choice for them. And I really love to just see how it's constructed, and then what kind of music it generates aesthetically. Like when you listen to it, it's just like, now when I listen to it, I feel like, I hear this technique, I hear this technique, I hear this kind of relationship, and now I understand. The biggest breakthrough was actually after I finished the book. It was already 2 years after that I go to hear Christian Wolf's concert here in the Roulette in New York with Robert Schulkowski and Robert Black. And that year I started a rock band, progressive rock band, and I just realized I suddenly could understand the kind of Christian Wolf's musicianship he has with his friends. That actually these pieces might be also a bit band-like, because they really they were engaging on such a personal level I could only understand when I had this band. And it was different than ensemble music. but he plays this ensemble music on the personal, with the personal connection, like as on the band level in some way. So I found it so beautiful because you have this like 85-year-old cool cool person on the piano, and they play such a weird music, and they enjoy it. They're really so cheerful and happy about it. You can see it on their faces. So they're just rocking these pieces, this new piece as well for roulette, dedicated to roulette. And I feel like that was kind of like my understanding come to being complete in some way about Christian world music. I feel like so that's where I could understand the sound in its kind of depth. So that was the experience for me from changing the system. And also Robin Shulkovsky, the drummer. So that's also nice to know her because she collaborated with Yanis Xenakis. So that's where I took kind of loop back to the first recording. And I've been around her every time she comes. I like to just be around her, also because she carries so much, collaborating with Stockhausen and all these guys, but you cannot meet anywhere. But she has own path, but she also has full of these experiences which she can share. So I really love to connect with her. Yeah,
that's really cool. The things that really come out from that description you just gave of getting acquainted with this piece and the music of Christian Wolff generally is the dynamics between players and also the agency of the players as well. So you mentioned the fact that the players have choices and that they relate to each other more as a band, which is such an interesting description. I wondered whether you could pinpoint why that was appealing to you. Why did that make a connection for you?
Yeah. No, you can see that in Pauline Oliver's tuning meditation, this kind of functions as well, on very organic, intuitive way. It's kind of like you choose if you sing the same pitch or different pitch, and you need to figure out the space. But I feel like Christian Wolff, like he really focused a lot on technique and how to write them down, and he also break down the classical notation. My interest is also in the score. I've been doing like lots of different graphic scores, and that's also sometimes how we provide accessibility to the piece, because if you deconstruct the classical notation, or if you just draw a line, it's maybe more legible for a person who hasn't studied the classical notation, and which would be like a barrier to get to the music. So he has also prose collection, which is just a set of verbal scores. But for me, of course, maybe even some personal drawing about the choice. Like it's drawn me into this piece, maybe just feeling like there hasn't been choice in some way for me. But I really like that he really focuses on that and construct that, and it's very clear what you can do, but also like I feel like he connects it a lot with freedom and how he understands freedom, and that's been also a theme which I'm very interested in my life. And I feel like Yanis Xenakis also was interested in some kind of freedom, being in those protests, and Pauline Oliveros also was interested in some kind of freedom through listening. And kind of dissolving yourself into the space in some way. And I feel like Christian Wolff, also his work is political in many ways, and so he may be interested about freedom on the political sense, but also like lots of on the social sense in terms of how do we facilitate our relationships inside of the group. And he really draws them intricately, and he experiments with it, and he, like trying to go deep into his own techniques and change them up over time in his composition. So then I'm interested, like when you listen to music, what does it do with you, So you can play this music, but and be inside of it as a musician, like in Pauline's pieces, and Christian Wolff's also. But when you listen to it as a listener from outside, like does it then generates some kind of new connections in your brain, which makes you feel that, or which reestablish the relationships, how you relate to your everyday life? Would that like be the way to ingest that music? So like thoughts like that, then I'm interested in. Yeah, if it makes sense how I'm explaining it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing that I also see mentioned a lot, which you did there as well, is this political dimension to Christian Wolff's music. And obviously a title like Changing the System, it's very hard to imagine that without a political context too. And this piece has, a text within it by political activist and politician Tom Hayden as well, who's big in the anti-war movement, as I understand. And it sounds like this piece came out just in the midst of a lot of anti-Vietnam War sentiment as well.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued because obviously, given that you have written a PhD, you must have a fair bit of info on this, because in a lot of places where I saw it written down, it was like Christian Wolff is political, but the music is political, and I can kind of hear what I perceive to be some sort of desire to imbue some kind of left-wing, more horizontal structure within music and how the musicians relate to each other. But I wonder if you could tell me a bit about this political dimension of Wolff's work. Like, where was Wolff coming from politically, or at least, from what you could gather from writing the PhD?
I feel like you described it well. Yeah, I feel like there's some like a leftist inclination, interest in democracy, democratic principles, distributing the musical material between players equally. That's a very common thing he does in the piece. So everybody has kind of like same amount of pitch, but they need to decide how long they are going to play it and how they need to listen for the interactions. So that's how the mechanism works. And I also know that Christian doesn't necessarily like to talk about politics too much, because he also considers a musician. He's a musician, and this is music, this is composition. I feel like he got that label a lot, but also because obviously there is that context, but also he likes to point out, to come back to the music itself. So sometimes I feel, even myself doing lots of interviews with them and trying to go really deep into it, then we need to end with that. You need to just listen to it as well as the music,
right? Yes, yeah.
And get out of all this analysis in some way, and really listen. Yeah. And I know he has different techniques how he brings certain political context into the pieces. He quotes people. He portrays people like this poem about Harriet Tubman. So he has a piece which portrays a poem about Harriet Tubman, kind of bringing up her story a little bit. So then he has this large piano piece, A una mujer desaparecida, about women disappearing in Chile during the Pinochet government, probably murdered. And so he brings this, but it doesn't have any words. It has just the title, and it's just like a long piano piece. And I feel like, I spend lots of time with this one because there is so many references also about the song Holy Near Broad, so coming from the American folk tradition, So that's also his style, he portrays lots of workers' songs and kind of bread and roses, revolutionary protests, relating to a protest or strike. In certain way, but I feel like, okay, these are like concrete political events or people, but another way is just really like building the system of composition on the democratic level. And and then you have the prose collection also, just the verbal scores, which already they're very parametrical, but in words, written in words. So there is this accessibility aspect, which I like to point out because it's important for me too. And so that's also kind of activism in some way. If you want to bring amateur people playing this music, and it's interesting because he can write a similar piece in words as well as in notation. You also have to read very carefully the way how he's writing it. It's also interesting because I gave a whole seminar about verbal scores and how to read language and connect it with sound and music, or what the words really mean in terms of composition. So that's like also interesting subject. But that would be another, maybe connected with like social political aspects which he puts out there.
Nice.
So if you ask about this, I feel like there is lots of means he tried to show the social political aspects in his music. Wow. But you have to always just listen it as music. That's, I feel like, don't get to it's music as well. It's music.
Awesome. I love that. I want to return as well to something you said at the start, which was that you didn't also as well, I want to just say I love the fact that it was, you said 2 years after the PhD, after that whole process, that you felt like that things finally clicked into place. That's wonderful. Also, you mentioned at the start about you didn't like it, and that's why you wanted to, at least in part, devote some time to getting to know this music. At what point do you think you started to like it, if like is the right word? Like when did it start to feel appealing to you?
That's kind of a difficult question to me. I really cannot pinpoint the point, and I really don't think it was the point to start to like it. It's just I wanted to connect with this force of Christian Wolff and the thing he did, and I feel like I connected with it. I connected with it, and and then you wouldn't evaluate it as okay, I like our connection. You can say that, but it was something I wanted to connect with, and I did.
Lucia, I've got one more question for you, which I think you've hinted at throughout this discussion, but I like to ask the guests about how they listen to music, like what kind of formats they tend to listen on, how they tend to purchase music, essentially what listening to music looks like in day-to-day life. Obviously, you've mentioned the fact that actually the live format is the more pertinent format to you generally within your life. But yeah, give me a bit of insight into, you know, what listening to music looks like day to day for you.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like to listen music on Spotify or platforms like that. Yeah, or online. Maybe something on YouTube, because you can find there's a huge library. And it's just hanging there on the internet. So I listen some music from the YouTube. My priority is listening to live concerts and go to meet the people, and that's it's been part of the practice for a long time, and it gave me the most so far. And I listen for sounds, and lots of kind of music I listening through recording, because I also record lots of music. I do lots of field recordings as well, so I feel like just listening the environment through a microphone. That's kind of my listening practice, because I can focus, and I'm just seeing, like, you know, how it's filtered through the device. So that's been, I know, my practice. So maybe it's still connected with like different spaces, and I need to move around and see, than sitting in front of the computer or like just in my room. I would wish to have like a nice speakers that I feel it would change my listening experience here. But I have good headphones, and yeah, so sometimes from YouTube probably. Yeah, and of course I get lots of CDs from my friends, and yeah, so then I play them at home as well. Yeah.
Wicked. Lucia, thank you so much. I mean, your 3 picks were great. I love the way that they all interconnect, and I love hearing you talk about them as well. That's really imbued them with so much more meaning for me, and to get some additional context on Cave Acoustics as well, your record was fabulous. So yeah, thank you so much for your energy on this. It's been great.
I'm happy to hear that, and thank you for this invitation.
And to everyone listening, see you next time. Goodbye.